Okay, let's go.
He wants to jump
1,000 cars. Sir, you have 1,000 cars.
I don't think I'd attempt to try this stunt.
Or we owe this horsepower to Uncle Sam.
Too many cars.
Car. Roses would be.
Like I put my beer belly on it.
If you can't immediately tell somebody how many cars you have,
you'll really give those uppity yuppies something to think about.
Stay on the bar. Don't go off the bar with your Bronco.
1980 Volvo horns, what's right? I want the man's coolant.
and he's like, "Oh, I thought it'd be small. It's for a small car." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's still an automatic transmission. They're never going to be light."
It's definitely going to have to crash.
Starting off with Brad buying another car.
That's the West. Internet.
Is this a Nigerian oil print?
I also wish you drove a tan Camry.
Anyways,
Anyway,
that's a
horrible,
very
horrible podcast content.
very
Talking about a picture.
inside joke.
It loves to be driven hard.
There we go. All right. Hello and welcome to On Off Topic. Hey, we've got some guests tonight, Brad. We've got returning guests too. Andy and Mercedes Lilienthal.
Hey,
I want to thank them. I want to thank them in advance for coming because we've not had a guest for a while due to all of our audio and strange issues, and we think we haven't talked enough now to get back on the trail here. So we brought them along because not only are they excellent returning guests, but they're returning guests. So if it does go haywire, maybe they'll understand more than a new guest.
Yeah. I looked
I
back.
don't think it will. I think we got it knocked.
We had them on was August 23rd, 2024. Well, it would have been a couple days before that, but that was when it was released. Superlative Adventures is that episode, and that was about the TSD you guys did across Europe. And now I'm forgetting the details, but it's because it's recorded. So if you want to go back and listen
and listen to that one.
Yeah. I can't tell you the episode number, but I can tell you when the date it was.
I can tell you it was not number 300.
No, it was not. But I figured we'd kick it off before we're going to get into talking about Mercedes and Andy drove across the TransAmerica Trail. It was this past summer.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about that. But before that, we're going to do our usual. We're going to talk about project cars. We're not going to talk about Brad and Andrew's project cars. We'll talk about Mercedes and Andy's project cars because we just talked about our project cars the other episode. And everybody knows all about our stuff anyways. So, yeah. Go ahead, guys. I want to hear about your project cars.
Yeah, so we have 4 cars at the moment. They're all kind of project cars. We've long had a 91 Mitsubishi Pajero turbo diesel with the 2.5 liter 45.6. We have had a 1994 Mitsubishi Delica Space Gear with the 4M40 2.8 liter turbocharged diesel. We've had that since 2020.
Yep.
And then our daily driver / weekend rallier is a 2022 Subaru Crosstrek. So that is by far the newest vehicle that we own.
With a manual. They're all manual.
They're all manuals, yep. And that one we swore we would keep stock, and other lies we tell ourselves. And so it's got a Rally Innovations light bar. It's got Light Force lights on it, full Primitive Racing skid plates, 215, 7515 BF Goodrich KO3s, which we just put on. We're doing a little bit of a revamp on it. Rika Sika wheels in 15 inches, and nameless axleback exhaust, nameless cross, strut tower bar, thank you, and their new tie down, battery tie down. And then I literally just today picked up a set of King springs from Primitive Racing for their rear overload springs, because we're installing a rigged supply ultra swing rear tire carrier, which is something we discovered on the TransAmerica Trail and loved.
Well, that also is going to have the side hack for the fuel canister as well as the full down table too.
Right, the ultra table. And then we also just picked up a set of new Thule crossbars and a new Thule
The Motion 3
box for the top. We're big fans of that. And when you have a small vehicle, it can be hard to bring a lot of stuff with you. And one other thing we got this thing from from Sleep Rides. It's a simple but effective insert that goes when the seats are folded down. It's a wooden insert that goes down and uses the headrests as supports, and so then you can sleep inside the cross track. So that's a brand new company. In fact, I believe we have the first production unit.
Yeah, the very first manufactured unit, and the guy ends up being local. We live in Oregon, and he's just what, I don't know, 15 minutes away.
Yeah,
So
made some specifically for the cross track.
right, which is great because you just have to slide the crosstrek front seats forward and then tilt them forward, and it fits in. And the crosstrek is a little bit too short for a lot of people to be able to sleep in versus the Outback, which is longer. So we're stoked to test this. We haven't even slept on it yet. We literally have it sitting next to the rooftop box in our living room right now, right behind us.
This is not what they meant by Scandinavian design. Let me tell you,
Our house is in the garage right now.
I'm glad there's no camera on this podcast. So
You guys would have a good laugh.
in addition to
It's
that,
funny. I think that if I had to guess that a company called Sleep Ride that builds sleeping platforms for Crosstreks was based anywhere, my first guess would have been up by you guys in Oregon,
yes,
for sure.
right, we are definitely in the land of Subarus for sure. So, and then right before we left for the Transamerica or for the Alcan 5000,
2 days before.
we bought a '98 Suzuki Jimny Wide. So it's a bit of a white whale for me. I've always wanted that, but we've always wanted. I always forget that.
Yeah, we've always wanted.
We've always wanted that style of Jimny. It started in '98, and I swore that in 2023, when they became eligible for import, I'd get one. Well, it took until 2025. But it's the 1.3 liter engine, so it's not technically a K vehicle. It has a little wider fender flares. It's already got a little baby lift on it, some 235/75 BF Goodrich KO2s, and a winch mount. And so just going to be doing a little bit of work on it here shortly. And yeah, so excited to have the Jimny.
We're staying busy.
Sounds like it. I'm a huge fan of the Jimny. The earlier ones, the newer ones, the brand new one that we can't get as well.
Oh, so
It's
good.
it's a
It's
little
so good.
frightening to think about late '90s vehicles being importable, but I guess by definition of numbers they are.
Is that basically
So
calling all of
here
us
we are.
old right now, or
Hey, listen, we're all in the same age bracket, so if I call you
Yes,
old, I'm
this
just
is
saying the
true.
same thing to myself. So it doesn't
The
really help
idea
very
that you can
much.
import a 2000, an MY 2000 vehicle and have it qualify under the 25 year is mildly terrifying.
Yeah, on my day job, obviously, I'm an insurance appraiser, and I had an assignment today to look at a 2003 Nissan 350Z, and it struck me that yes, this is a 20-year-old car. When I first started in this business in like 2000 or 99, like that would have been in 1980 and it would have never even been repaired. It would have been totaled immediately. But we're in a world now where a 20-year-old car is still a daily drivable, like normal vehicle.
This is
So it's
true. In,
strange
in,
things.
in fact, a friend of mine who lives back in the Midwest, almost out of a joke, I guess I would say, he put antique plates on his Saturn SL2. So
Now, I have antique plates on my Eclipse, and I've been asked many a time, how old is that thing?
oh my
Uh,
gosh.
and I've also been told, "Hey, is that a Saturn?" So I get his vibe.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Let's cool little rundown of your stuff. I don't think you had the Jimmy last time we talked, and I think you just
No.
had the everything else. I think has been around though.
we can put it this way that it's so new, I have yet to drive the thing. It's been sitting on our driveway because we bought it 2 days beforehand, and we actually had the 2026 Honda Passport Trail Sport that was a fleet car for us to measure and whatnot. It wasn't the actual rally car, but we drove up. I doubled up behind Andy, and then after we bought the Jimny from the Seattle area and actually drove it back home, but it's been sitting. It's got a little bit of mechanical work we need to do on it, and so we ordered parts. And so yeah, it's been driven very little, but I've yet to drive that thing.
It's been to two or three cars and coffees, and that's about it.
The life of an imported Jimny.
Yeah.
That's you guys will use it more, I'm sure, but it seems like most of them are just cars and coffee rigs. So
Right.
Yeah.
Oh no, we'll put it to the test. Trust us. We're gonna
Oh yeah,
probably get a good amount of pinstripes and stuff on it when we build it up the way we want to build it up.
I have faith in you guys. I'm just saying in general, that's the path they take. I see a lot of those and Mitsubishi Pajero Juniors and Minis at the local cars and coffees here. So, but I rarely see them on trail. In fact, the only time I saw a Pajero Mini on trail, it was abandoned and
Oh,
shot full of shotgun shells, and the roof
Oh,
was jumped up and down on. So I don't know what the story
what?
was there.
wow.
That seems like a
Yep.
very strange car to abandon in the woods.
Yeah, I was out in the desert here in Arizona. We came across it
Oh,
and we were
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, that's not normal. Why is this out here?"
Wow.
Somebody is missing this, I'm sure. So
Yes.
Wow.
sad.
I've
It was a sad sight. It was a sad sight. But
I have a couple Subaru questions. The My wife has an 18 Crosstrack 6-speed. Have you done the struts yet? Have you replaced those?
Front
Uh,
struts or rear?
we did all four, or I did all four at about 50,000 miles
Okay.
with
Yeah,
with a
no.
set of Bilstein HDs, and that was a
Okay.
huge
That
improvement just for all she does is drive around in the city, and that was a huge ride improvement for all the pothole roads we have out here. So
Yeah, I have not done them. We only have about 31,000 miles on ours. And so I'm going to put these King overload springs on the back, just on this factory suspension or factory struts until it's time to go the Bilstein route. We had B6s on the Transamerica Trail vehicle.
and we got those springs from
Dream
Primitive Racing
momentum.
here in town.
Yes. Yep.
nice. Yeah, I've got I actually did a video on swapping them. So if you go on our YouTube page,
Ooh,
you can
Cool.
see
will
how.
do.
Yeah, wasn't too bad.
Mm.
I got one of those fancy spring compressors that's got the screw on. It's the screw type with the
Oh,
Yep.
fingers,
nice.
so you can actually put it in a bench vise or a jaw horse. It's not the two-sided thing. So
Oh, really? I'll have to look at that.
yeah, you can get them pretty inexpensively now. It's just a knockoff of the Eastwood version one. I got
Yeah.
on Amazon. It works really well.
Okay.
Well, yeah, definitely a lot easier, I think, for swapping the springs in your driveway.
Which we
So,
will be doing
Yeah,
yep,
probably Sunday.
yeah,
when it's not raining, at least in the Pacific Northwest.
yeah. And then, yeah, so you only get 30,000 miles on it. We got to about 60, and I started hearing a noise from the rear end, and I ignored it for another 10,000 miles, and it needed both rear wheel bearings at the same
Oh,
time.
Oh
So,
wow.
yeah, so watch out for that. Apparently, that's a thing on these cross tracks is the rear wheel bearings.
yeah. I've heard Subarus just. I mean, this is our fourth Subaru.
Yeah.
We did buy a 2005 Subaru Forester XT, um, stage two tune, downpipe, all the things. It was a very fun, fast car with 200,000 miles on it. We had it for about 7 months, and uh, to be honest, I was just worried. I kept thinking I'll just put a new engine in if it goes out, but the dual overhead cam turbo engines are hen's teeth unless you want to spend lots and lots of money on a remanufactured one. So I had a lot of fun with it for a bit, and then ended up selling that. So
Yeah, see, I had a WRX of that same generation, uh, and I never had any issue with the wheel bearings. I think it's the later ones, the, these more modern ones. They changed the design, and I was doing like a little part searching, and I think actually on the, uh, what's the super off road one that you
oh, the
guys were driving?
wilderness.
The
Yeah, no,
wilderness
no.
one. I think actually on the wilderness version of the Crosstrek, at least for this 2025, because I think they changed the actually chassis, right? It changed from the
Yeah,
like it was
2024 went to a new chassis.
yeah.
Yep.
So if you look up those parts, it's actually the Outback rear knuckle and bearing. It's the same part number. It crosses over. And I was like, oh, they
Oh.
must have gone with a more heavier duty knuckle and bearing, maybe. I don't know.
Well, the Wilderness actually has a larger rear axle, larger rear
Yeah,
differential than the factory Crosstrek or the standard Crosstrek. So yeah, I mean maybe it's just straight off the Outback. I don't know.
yeah. So there's some interesting part stuff there, but yeah, there's if you go back, I've got a couple episodes here, me talking about doing rear wheel bearings and trying to source the parts from Japan to save some money, and Yeah, it was a pain.
Sounds like a cautionary tale.
Yeah, I mean, where you are, you probably have less rust to deal with because
Right.
Yeah.
Very
Stephanie
true.
Gailey drives this car, and they're supposed to be bolt-in, but they were rust welded.
Oh
So
boy.
yeah,
We're very familiar with that. We're both from the Midwest originally, so we know about breaking, bolt breakers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
these were it was more cost effective to do the knuckles and the bearings to just buy new ones and just put them together.
Sure.
But anyway, enough about that because I've gone in depth on that so much on this podcast. This summer was all about that. We want to hear about your TransAmerica Trail. So that is something I'd never really heard too much about. You guys want to give us a little background on what that is?
Yeah, it was originally mapped out, started in the mid '80s, by a gentleman by the name of Sam Carrero, and he lives in Mississippi. And he was an adventure motorcycle enthusiast and started just mapping out routes. And over time, he didn't set out to do this, as we understand, but it ended up becoming a network of trails that crisscrossed the United States and uh, were linked together, and hence the Transamerica Trail. And it's definitely started originally for adventure touring motorcycles, but now you do have four-wheeled vehicles doing it.
Well, and if there's four-wheel vehicles that do it, primarily they are 4x4s with low range and whatnot, not
Oh,
necessarily all-wheel drive vehicles and not necessarily near stock all-wheel drive vehicles.
right. And so it starts in, if you do the entire thing, it's basically three sections. There's the Atlantic Ocean Spur that starts in Nags Head, North Carolina, in the Outer Banks, and then goes into Virginia. And then you pick up the traditional Transamerica Trail route, which runs from essentially from Virginia through Idaho.
Well, that's the east to west portion. There are spurs that come off of it.
Right. If you wanted to go up to, say, Minnesota or down, I believe, to Texas. And then the Pacific Ocean Spur runs from Idaho to Port Orford, Oregon. So we did all three: Nags Head, North Carolina to Port Orford, Oregon. It took us 29 days and
15 states
15
and
states and 7,100.
163 miles. And of those 7,163 miles, 3,184 miles was off pavement. So dirt, gravel, and mud. And it took us about 317 hours and 5 minutes over 29 days of drive time.
And
You
what
can
was our average speed?
average speed over the whole entire country over those 29 days was 25 miles an hour, and in Appalachia was about 18 miles per hour. And you could tell who the navigator was.
For sure. That is a slog and the longest way to traverse the country, but it
Yeah,
sounds super fun.
it was.
Yeah,
It
I was
was.
reading
It
those
was.
stats that you've sent me, and I was like, wow, this is like if it was 100 years ago and you're across the country in a Model T. Like that is
Yeah.
that is about the same average speed you'd probably have, and probably the same amount of time, I bet.
One of the things we looked at was it was a big milestone to cross the Mississippi River. And when we threw it in Google Maps just to see how long it would take, the fastest way to get from North Carolina to Helena, Arkansas,
Helena, West Helena.
Helena, West Helena, Arkansas. And it was something like, I think it was like 2.5 days.
Yeah.
And it took us 2 weeks approximately. So it's it's definitely a slow but scenic way.
Well, and we need to preface some of the slowness of it was due to 2 weeks straight of severe thunderstorms and severe weather and so much rain that I mean, the only reason that we had to stay in a couple of hotels was because we could not outrun or bypass or get away from some of these severe storms.
We made a pact too before we left. We said, "Look, we're too old to be sleeping on the top of a car in a severe thunderstorm just to tough it out."
No, we're going stupid if we're going to do that,
But maybe that's it.
no matter my age.
Yeah. So we just decided, like, if we're setting up camp and we're in a tornado warning or something like that, we're not gonna
That's just
we're gonna go to a hotel. And so we did that 3 times because of severe weather.
Right, and so the biggest thing, especially out east, is with the severe weather. You are going to be in the middle of nowhere doing Transamerica Trail most likely. So we had to drive maybe 45 minutes or an hour one way out of the way to get to the nearest town, and you were primarily without cell phone service through the majority of the time being on Transamerica Trail. So we were lucky that we ended up having a Starlink Mini that we used that was packed really neatly in a Pelican case, and we had to deploy that more times than not. We thought, oh, we'll just use it for, checking emails and stuff. Oh no, it was to outrun either wildfires or severe storms.
Yeah, self-preservation becomes important at some point in your life when you realize, that you are mortal. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
understand that completely.
right.
I understand that completely. I've slept outside in some pretty gnarly conditions, and I can't imagine doing it now. It was different 20 years ago for sure.
Oh,
Here I
yeah.
go calling us old again, but it is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, we had one night when we were in outside of Jasper, Tennessee, and, yeah, we were in the rooftop tent, all set up, and I don't like 4 in the morning, just big thunder and lightning and torrential rains, and luckily the Thule tent we have, which was
It's the Thule approach tent.
yeah, it was very large for the car, but it did its job. But I remember thinking, gosh, hopefully it's not too bad. We had no cell service. Our Starlink was put away, so we couldn't really see what the weather was about to do. But yeah, it was. It makes you realize you are mortal and you are small.
Well, and in addition to a lot of the severe storms, and I'm sure we'll talk about the wildfires and the smoke here in a little bit, but we had severe heat, absolute severe heat. Of the 29 days, 28 days were 90 degrees or warmer, and 6 of those days were 100 degrees or warmer, up to 111. And the first 2 weeks was like they had severe humidity warnings for the East Coast and the whole eastern section, and that's what we drove. But thank God that our 2025 Crosstrek Wilderness that we drove from Subaru had excellent air conditioning, and that puppy never let us down.
I mean, yeah, hot is hot, but hot and humid is awful. So that sounds
Uh,
terrible. Hot
Yeah.
and humid in a tent for multiple days with no
Oh,
showers, it sounds even worse.
it was.
yeah,
It
it
was
was
absolutely. I think.
pretty
I
gnarly.
think the worst was we were. I don't even know where it was. Somewhere in Tennessee again, and it was like it was poured and then but it then got warm again and it was just absolutely miserable. And thankfully we had, our sleeping bags, but we had brought some liners just in case it got cold. But the liners were, a wicking material. And so that was like so much better than having to lay on top of a nylon sleeping bag in like, dew points of near 80.
And for us, if nobody knows of what cooling cloths are, look it up. We lived by them and we packed a couple of them, and I mean we literally slept on top, like Andy said, on top of our liners so we didn't stick to our sleeping bags, and we used our cooling cloths and we tried to sleep as best as we could. And if you don't know what those are and you don't do well with heat or humidity, they're super cheap. They're like on Amazon or whatever. You can buy a 6 pack for like 20 bucks.
Yeah, shout out to our $12 Target fan as well that we brought.
Fernando.
He got it. He was so good. He got a name, Fernando. Anyway,
Yeah, you do things on the road when you're like, well, okay, we need some sort of breeze because this is, yeah, enough said.
Yeah, no, I have a tent fan, and it's definitely a huge improvement, especially because when you have the rain fly on and closed up, there's not much air movement inside a tent.
yes,
So
yes,
having
Yeah,
a little fan in there makes a huge difference
huge difference.
for
yeah.
sure.
Fernando was maybe what, I don't know, 5 inches in diameter, and we clipped him on top, and it just had enough. It was battery powered enough to last most of the night,
Yeah,
and we had it on low, and it helped. I know it definitely helped, but he's here waiting for his next expedition.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably the same kind of thing I have. I have a
yeah,
very similar size battery powered one, and
yep,
it's got a little light on it, and it's a little hook to hang from top of the tent, and it is a
yep,
godsend for sure.
exactly,
Nice.
exactly.
So I think they're sub $15 to buy one on online somewhere. And if you can't
Yeah.
much,
Right.
I would also completely and totally encourage buying your own small camp fan. Huge,
So
huge difference.
if I have a question about the driving, so if you're if your average speed was less than 30 miles per hour most times, uh, on the trail, these aren't fire roads. These are less than fire roads.
Well,
What's the driving
yeah,
like?
Good
it
combination,
it
yeah.
it was a. I mean, we literally drove pretty much everything you could imagine. Um, in going over the Appalachian Mountains, you had lots of um,
Twisting roads.
tight twisting
Yeah.
roads and trails in the mountains, and
More
most of them weren't difficult technically. There were some we would get to that were washed out from, especially when we got towards Asheville and the areas
Yeah.
that were affected by Hurricane Helene.
Yep.
It was unbelievable.
Well, and when we just landed, they had just started doing all these severe thunderstorm warnings and the severe humidity that stuck around for the last couple weeks. And we started going into, like Andy said, near Asheville, and even before that, there were huge thunderstorms that were literally, and I kid you not, wiping out the bridges that were just built from that hurricane. And the storms we were involved in and trying to outrun and trying to dodge were literally disintegrating everything that was just fixed.
So we ended up at this. We came out of these Forest Service roads after being in Asheville, and so we're trying to make kind of southwestern progress. And we got to this area, and it was shut down. The highway was shut down. I-40 was shut down. Well, it turns out that huge line of storms that came through the day before had, or 2 days before, had created a
Huge
huge
landslides
landslide that
on the interstate.
closed I-40, and then they weren't allowing us to continue on the Forest Service roads to go continue westward because it was only open for locals, and they were ticketing.
Well, and that's the most important thing is we weren't going on I-40, right? So the TransAmerica Trail basically is all back roads, country roads, dirt, gravel, farm roads type of thing, and then mountain passes in Colorado, way up above 12,000 feet, for instance. So we were trying to get those dirt roads that were on the eastern side near I-40. But like Andy said, they were ticketing, and we talked to one of the what was it? I think it was the department,
Yeah, he was,
North
North Carolina
or something.
DOT truck, and he was telling us, you can't get on I-40, you can't go straight. So the only option was to go back towards Asheville, which is where we had already come from. And it was,
Or risk getting ticketed, which we didn't wanna do,
yeah, but
especially with what we were driving and who we are, and we're like,
yeah,
we're not into that kinda stuff.
once you got, say, like, once you got to Oklahoma, things got flat and straight.
And muddy.
And they had, eastern Oklahoma had been experiencing a lot of
Lots of
flooding, and
mud,
so we got
yeah.
turned around a lot. You'd be driving down just like a county road, and you'd literally round the bend, and there's a lake in the road, and there may or may not be a road closed sign, and so you just have to figure a way around all this stuff.
And we figured out very quickly is you had to pack your patience. With Transamerica Trail, it's not like you're with a group of people and you have a set
Mm.
place you need to sleep every night or whatnot. I mean, we were self-sustained. We had no support vehicle. We had all of our gear with us. I mean, heck, we flew from Oregon all the way out to the East Coast to Subaru's headquarters, flew with our camp gear.
Which is in New Jersey, by the way.
Oh, yeah, sorry, East Coast, New Jersey. We flew with our camp gear, our tools, all that type of stuff, met the vehicle, and then essentially started our 29-day journey. And the thing that's important about that is we very quickly learned to pack our patience and to just say, okay, as the navigator, I've got paper maps, right? Andy had a GPS track that he stitched together that you can also do. It doesn't tell you where to turn, it just gives you a line that you can follow.
Yeah.
But I had paper maps that were 11 by 17, not great maps that, they had like Crayola color highlighters as to, where to go and whatnot. But it was enough for me to piece together along with turn by turn route instructions that you put in like a little moto like a motorcycle road chart holder. So I did that primarily, and I wanted to have that for the odometer readings and to get myself oriented that way. That being said, is all three of those, so roll chart holder, paper maps, and the GPS or GPX tracks that we stitched together with our Garmin device, um, basically formulated where we were and how I had to deviate. And over those 29 days, we deviated 39 times.
And one other note too is on top of those three, we were using Onyx,
Yep.
the Onyx app when we were actual off-road trails, because some of the trails we were on are designated trails, like especially in
Right.
Colorado when we went over the San Juan Mountains. So there were times though, even in Oklahoma, where we were using Onyx and it would say, "Oh, this is actually technically a trail. It's like a 3 out of 10, so it's not hard." But
Mm.
And they had crowdsourced data too,
right,
the Onyx, which was great because then we could see, oh, hey, this is washed out. I was here a week ago or whatnot. Or we could leave data too. We could say, hey, there's a huge tree down, this and this, whatever. And because it happened all the time. If it wasn't a flood, it was trees, it was,
and
you name it.
the first few days, because of these big storms that had come through, I remember, I'll never forget the first trail we turned down. And luckily, it was real early on the trail, but there was a huge, like 100-foot tall tree that um, was laid across the road, and we were going to buy a chainsaw, and the last minute, because we were already so full of gear, we opted not to. But even when we had gotten to that tree, we would not have been able to
Oh, no.
saw through that tree. It was just too big. So
No.
you had to really just expect the unexpected.
That's part of the fun.
Hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I was wondering was if it was like really technical rock crawling, but it was really just on back roads that are just like unimproved roads or.
Yeah, most of it is unimproved roads. Now when you get to Colorado, you're going over Cinnamon Pass. You're going up and going through California Gulch, and supposed to go over Hurricane Corkscrew Pass. That's more than just an
Over.
Yeah.
unimproved road. Same thing with Ophir Pass. Same thing when you get into Moab. Some of those are. I mean, we were on the Gemini Bridges Trail, which is not a super difficult trail, but we being in a cross track, uh, even with 9.3 inches of ground clearance, I
Yeah,
think it is.
stock is 9.3 and we had stock suspend. Well, I mean,
We
yeah,
had built-in B6s, and then we ran King Springs in the rear, and full primitive racing skid plates.
yeah.
And you really had to be cognizant of where you're going. You're not in a Pajero, like our Pajero, or you're not in a Jeep or something with a ton of ground clearance. So you really had to uh, watch where you went. But if you went slowly and carefully,
Or had me spot you, which we
which
did.
we did,
Yeah.
it was okay. Yeah, we did run into a couple people who were just like, "How did you get up here?"
Yeah,
But
of
I mean,
course.
we were able to crest some of the San Juan Mountains in Colorado, some of the really high passes, and we knew that that was going to be one of our biggest challenges. Um, so we know some of that area. We've never done Cinnamon Pass before, but we did Ophir Pass in 4x4 vehicles. We've done California Corkscrew and those type of things.
Hurricane.
Hurricane. So we knew what to expect, but those always change too, right? And those are legitimate, like very slow going, bouldering, a lot of loose shale rock, that type of stuff. And you're talking about, for instance, Cinnamon Pass that we haven't done before, 12,460 feet above sea level for its summit. And let's see, Overpass is just under 12,000. So we knew that that was going to be a challenge because we didn't have a locker, we didn't have low range,
We
right?
didn't have a
But
turbo.
we didn't have a
Mhm.
turbo, right? We've got the
Yep.
crosstrack engine, and it's a CVT, so
Yep.
it wasn't a manual transmission either. So, and we're at pretty much stock height with the primitive racing skid plates. So we knew with any type of vehicle doing enough off-roading at those elevations, 11, 12, 13,000 feet, that every vehicle gets anemic. We didn't know how much it would be and how much of a potential issue it could be. But we always said, if we can't do it, we'll backtrack, we'll go back down, or we'll turn around, and it's all about being safe. Safety's first.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if that was a CVT vehicle,
Yeah.
um,
Yes.
but how is the? I know they have like it's like X mode or something for off road.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
how are their off road modes in that?
So I was legitimately um impressed with this. We've got three vehicles with four-wheel drive and low range here in our driveway. And so that's what we're usually used to doing actual off-roading in. The X mode and the Crosstrack kept impressing me. The first time it really did was when we were on this washed out trail in Appalachia, and it was pretty technical. It was our first time where we really had to worry about, like, okay, we got to be cognizant of how slow we go, where we put our wheel. And so I put it in the X mode, snow and dirt mode, and it it just you could feel it figuring it out. You could feel the wheels kind of go slow, and then like you get a little bit of spin, and then it sends power to the wheels that need it.
Well, you have to be patient and let it do its
Yeah,
job.
you didn't just
And
like
Yeah,
roll
yeah.
over everything. You'd get to stuff that you had to be careful with, and you could feel the all-wheel drive system using its all-wheel drive superpower to figure out where to send the power. So, and then when we got into some of the like muddy and mucky areas of Oklahoma, we put it into the deep snow and mud mode, and that allows more wheel spin. And so we were pretty lucky because we had been warned by lots of people about the clay going across the middle part of the country, especially
Hmm.
Oklahoma. And so we really tried not to have to get into it. But there were a couple of times where it was unavoidable. We had to go through it. But I always made sure we put on that mode that we could power out of it and clean the tires out if we needed to. And it worked. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of CVT transmissions, but the X mode and the CVT on the Subarus on that Crosstrek Wilderness, it really works well.
I just wish that they had it on the manual transmissions because our 22 that we have at home here, which is a stick shift, does not have X mode.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting because sometimes especially if you come from driving, more conventional four-wheel drive stuff, you kind of have to relearn a little bit with those. You do have to give it some throttle because it will, like you said, it will figure it out because it's
Right.
using probably the ABS to brake individual wheels and sort of give a
Mhm.
faux locker by using the brake system. So it
Right.
actually needs some wheel speed to work. So if you're not, you know, giving it
We have a
enough, it's not going
yeah,
to work.
we have a friend who works at Subaru, and we went out to dinner with him before we left, and he gave us that exact advice that you just said. Was he said, "Hey, just a little advice: when you get to an obstacle, keep your foot into it, not like floor it, but just keep throttle because it does exactly that. It has to kind of figure it out, and it did really really well. We were on slightly bigger tires, but not even. It's barely. We went from a 225/60/17 to a 225/65/17, BF Goodrich KO2, and I'll take any millimeter of ground clearance we could get.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. It feels pretty
I mean,
brave to go up
I
that high in
climbed
a
I
little
climbed
car like that
6,500
without
feet
any
with a
extra power
2.6
adders.
Mitsubishi and a
But
carburetor a couple weeks ago,
um,
so I get
I
it
haven't.
100%.
I did.
It was not a
I mean, it's
was
all
not a
pavement,
great
right? You go
time.
up through the Rocky Mountain National Forest. You can drive I forget the highway route, but it's all paved,
Yeah,
and you
pretty
drive up and
Yeah.
much.
over.
Pretty much.
Um, and we did
I
that
was
on
in
the way
third year a
back
lot.
in my all track,
Yeah.
um, which has turbo, so it's a little easier, but it's all paved. That was a cool road.
Oof.
Oh, wow.
You had to put up, yeah, you had to put up the sails and
Yeah.
Put the hazards
We
on.
we had yeah. Oh yeah. Well, when we were on California Gulch, we ran into a guy with a Ford Raptor, and we just got chatting briefly, and he was saying that he had followed this guy over the pass in a
I'm down to try it
I
now.
think he said it was like an 84
I
Ford
figure I've gone to
pickup
almost
truck
7,000
with a
feet. What's another couple few thousand
351
feet? You know, it'll
and
be fine.
carburetors, and he's like, man, he's
My
like
truck has a
that
solid
guy,
100
going
horsepower,
up and over. I
and
mean,
it'll
at least
have
he had
10
a
by the time I
decent
get up there.
size,
It'll be all good.
he had the
No
cubic
worries at
inches,
all.
but taking a carbureted vehicle up and over 13,000 feet is, you should
oh,
get a medal for that
he
somehow.
brought his New Balances and screwdriver and tuned it up as he went.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was like the first time that we went up with our 1995 Suzuki Sidekick, which what
Yeah.
was it brand new? Had 95?
Yeah, it had 95 horsepower at the flywheel brand new. We went up and over Imogene Pass at 13,114 feet
These are side by
back
side
in like
people.
2015. And
How many times
we were in low range, and the only really steep section is getting up that section when you're going from Ouray to Telluride to get to that summit. And Mercedes had mentioned, "Do you think we'll be able to do it?" I'm like, "Well, as long as nobody comes down the hill, we'll be just fine." And of course, like 4 side by sides
Yeah.
started coming down the hill right at us, and of course, uphill is supposed to have right away, but they didn't know that.
yeah.
So we ended up having to pretty much
So
dump.
yeah.
Yeah. So you ended up having to pretty much dump the clutch at
Mm.
like 4,500 RPM just
Sure.
to just
The
On a
first
to
time I
target
ever
movement?
experienced that,
yeah, it's
actually,
because
I was
and
with
I looked it
Andrew,
up, and I
and we
think
were
we were
out here in
making something
Arizona,
like
and we were in a
40
we had a
Yeah,
rented
horsepower
Altima with a four-cylinder and a CVT,
at that
and we
elevation.
pulled out
But
of a
it
gas
and
station
so
up near the
that
Grand Canyon, and the
that
Grand
taught us
Canyon
a
is probably
lot, and
about
then, of course, we had
a mile up.
our Jeep Cherokee
Um,
that was also
and I remember
modified
pulling
that
out, and
we
there was
took
an
up later,
18-wheeler
but,
coming, and I'm sure
at
Andrew
a
remembers it.
different year, but we learned a lot
But
about how
we hit the
anemic
gas
vehicles can
as we
be no
had
matter
been
what
doing
type
the
of
entire
vehicle
time.
when
We
you're
drove it from
that
the rental
high.
desk,
Right.
and the car did not go anywhere, and I thought for sure we were all gonna die by tanker truck. Just little quick remake of the movie Duel. So, oops. So we learned pretty quickly back then. So I knew driving my '86 Mighty Max 4x4 loaded up with two people in camping gear up and over 6,000 feet wasn't gonna be a super easy trek, but it was a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our vehicle, the engine, everything was completely stock. So we had suspension modification, we had armor, we had wheels and tires and lighting and that kind of stuff. But we did not have any engine modifications. I and really the 2.4 turbo out of an Outback Wilderness would have been the modification we needed, but
And I mean, for the truth of it is, we modified this vehicle with Subaru America, but we were very specific in what we had wanted to use our modifications with, right? So in addition to the primitive racing skid plates, and the BF2 tires and the Rika wheels and whatnot, we wanted to have adequate lighting, right? Auxiliary lighting, especially up front, because you never know. We didn't know how late we were going to be running through the night. We didn't know how bad the conditions were going to be, the dust, the fog, which we hit all of it times 20. So we ended up having a Rally Innovations front light bar mount, and then we ran Baja Designs. What were those? The
XLR
Yeah,
Pro.
SLR Pros. I was gonna say we've used squadrons on the Honda that we did with the Alcan, but we also ended up using some other parts and pieces that were instrumental, right? So we had EcoFlow, we had a Delta Pro 3, and then we also had an alternator charger for power.
So the Delta, the Delta 3 is a Delta 3 Plus, I believe, was the power station we brought with us.
Right. And so, what we wanted to do, because we had an ARB fridge with us and a couple of other ARB accessories like a portable single air compressor and an awning and whatnot. But the fridge, I mean, we're on our own for what ended up being a month long straight. We didn't know how often we were going to have grocery stores or gas station stops or things like that, or where we were going to end up being. So a fridge for us was really important. And so we've had ARB fridges in the past that they've always worked really well,
Oh, that's
but
cool.
how to power that overnight so that you didn't end up waking up with a dead battery was of a huge concern for us. And so EcoFlow has this really nifty system. So we ended up getting the higher powered 800-watt alternator charger. So you can reverse charge it. So right, so during the day, you can charge your power station, but at night you can reverse charge it so it tops off your car's battery, so you never end up having a low charge that way.
Yeah, it has a really good app, so you just make sure you reverse the charge
Oh,
at night.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, so that worked really well. So, for instance, when we had the car off and we needed to charge, let's or like power up our Starlink, which is many times we just plugged it right into, the AC plug of the 20 million plugs that are on that power station and ran it that way. So that was really important for us to have that. But then we also had some specific recovery gear too. I mean, because we didn't know being self sufficient, we needed to make sure without a winch how we could get out of being stuck.
Yeah, luckily
So
we didn't need it, but we did carry Max Trax Extreme boards. They have a version called the Light board, which is it's a different polymer on the plastic makeup.
It's always good to
But
have
we
that
went with
stuff,
the
not only for
Extremes, and
yourself, but
then
also for the recovery
also
of
a
other
Factor
people, for
55
sure.
hitch link 2.0, which goes into the trailer hitch just in case we needed to get pulled out.
I think we had a couple. Didn't we have a strap or two, and we ended up having a couple of shackles too with us?
Yeah, we just carried the usual stuff. I worked in the vehicle recovery business for about 15 years, so I always go a little bit over prepared with that. But luckily, we never had to get stuck, and we never had to recover anybody else.
Yeah, so you'd be out. Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and and you bring up a good point is because we didn't know who we would meet that needed help or what would end up being in that type of scenario, and we did end up needing to help other people. And I mean, for us, we don't care if we're on a mountain pass, cliffside, or if we're in the middle of a Appalachia gravel road in the middle of this next big pass that goes over. I mean, we ended up helping a couple of different people, didn't we?
Yeah. So we're in where were I don't even know where we were.
Appalachia.
Somewhere in Appalachia, and
Well, a height mountain,
yeah,
like
may have
goes
been
past the
Tennessee.
gravel.
But anyway, so we're in the middle of nowhere. I mean, literally, just it's a mountain zigzaggy thing on the map. And I come around the corner, and there's a white Nissan Versa, and a guy on the ground by it. And
On gravel.
yeah, and I mean, when you're in the middle of woods and just
Hmm.
by yourself, you're always like, well, what are we gonna run into? Who are we gonna run into? And so there's this guy, and I looked at him, and he's on the ground with a wrench, and I rolled down the window and I said, "Are you okay?" And he just looks at me and goes, "Please tell me you have a breaker bar." And I said, "I actually do have a breaker bar." Well, it turns out he had just bought this
I was
Versa.
going to
He's a
say,
lineman,
definitely
and he
anger.
bought this Versa, and it had a spare tire, but didn't have
Oh,
the kit to. It had the jack, but didn't have the tire iron. And so he had gotten the wheel off, and I said, "How did you get the wheel off?" He said, "I had an adjustable crescent wrench." I said, "How did you
Lug nuts.
how did you get 4 lug nuts off like at 80 foot-pounds with an adjustable crescent wrench?" But he did.
probably
Well,
anger.
we're also a lineman for the local power company.
Yeah,
That tells you something.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, anger and some muscle.
Yeah, and so anyway, he was very happy uh to have seen us with the breaker bar, and we also lended him our air compressor to inflate the flat spare tire. So it's one of those things if nobody remembers to keep their flat spare tire
Yeah.
aired up. So
Well, and I mean,
consider this a public service announcement.
right. And I mean, and those are some of those instrumental bits of kit that we were like, okay, if we get stranded, we need air, right? So we got the single portable air compressor from AirB. We had the recovery gear, we had this and that, the power. Oh God, we should talk about the EcoFlow, and we had the lady.
Oh, yeah, it was one of the
Yeah.
craziest things that had happened to us, and this may be one of the craziest things that ever happened to me in my entire life.
Period. Or me. Yeah.
We were about 30 miles outside of Wendover, Utah, and in the absolute middle of nowhere, which you'll see a theme here with the Transamerica Trail. You're oftentimes in the middle of nowhere.
Well, this one was north of the Bonneville Salt Flats because we had just passed through.
Yeah, and so driving down this road, and I can see something in the middle of the road. And now we're on one of these roads that is like vanishing point, just like goes on forever until up into the mountains.
And it wasn't just a road. This was a huge rocky gravel trail, like big rocks, not just gravel. You can go fast. It was pretty rocky.
And so I see something on the road, and we get up to it, and there's a board that says help on it. And there's another board that says help facing the other way. And then up the hill is some sort of structure, outbuilding or something like that. And then there's a
Way.
road. It's barely a road. And that said help, phone, tire. And I'm like, so I stop, and I'm looking around. There's nobody there. There's no car. There's nothing. And I'm just like, what is this? And Mercedes is like, I'm gonna get it. I said, why don't you just stay in the car? Just like, I don't know, like something doesn't feel right here.
We just
And
wanted
we're,
to assess
we're,
the
we're just
situation.
looking around like there's nothing here. Why are these signs up here. And then all of a sudden, a truck comes up behind us, pickup truck.
We're like, "Are we gonna get ambushed?"
I mean, we really, I mean, I don't know. We're in the middle of nowhere. And so this couple pulls up next to us. They got their kids. It's a pretty new F-150. And they roll the window down and they're like, "Are you guys okay?" And we were like, "We're fine, but we're trying to figure out what's going on with this sign here."
When at that point, I think we were there for maybe 15, 20 minutes already.
I was about ready to call emergency on sat phone and or on satellite device. And they said, "Well, we thought you needed help. We have a farm about 15 miles down the road." And we went into Wendover to get groceries, and these signs were not up. So we're kind of like, I don't know. I'm looking at the wife, and she's looking at me, and I
Mm.
think we're both like, "Are you
We're
guys?
all
Is
thinking,
this kosher? Is this going to be good or
yeah,
bad?"
who's gonna mug who or something.
Yeah. So they get out, and so we get out and start looking around, and then all of a sudden, this woman comes out from behind this cluster of boulders, and she's just sobbing and
Bleeding.
bleeding from her knee, and there's a dog, and she's like inconsolable. And like, first question, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?"
Do you need water? Do you need food? We've got cold food, cold water. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, long story short, so she kept wanting to talk to the tire shop and the mayor, and we're just like, oh boy.
yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, long story short, she said she'd been out there for 2 weeks. She lived in that outbuilding off grid. And
Like off grid, as in no water, no electricity, no nothing. She got water from a local like spring nearby and
right.
she
Mhm.
woke up with the sun and she went to bed by the sun.
She had a
Mhm.
cell phone. She charged it in her car. Well, the car had gotten a flat tire, and so she'd put the donut on. Well, then she got a flat on the another tire and had no donut and couldn't get off her property.
And then the
And
plug
then the
that
cell
she
phone died.
well, her whatever, I don't know if it was a cigarette lighter, a USB port or something in her car that charged her phone broke, so she had no way to charge her phone and her phone died.
And so we used this EcoFlow to connect our Starlink. I connected my phone to Wi-Fi calling, and we were able to call the tire shop in Wendover. And it was all her store all added up. They had the tire that she said they had, and he said he'd come out and put the new tire on so she could get off her own property. And it was just like, what the hell? It was just it was one of the most bizarre moments. We were there like an hour and a half. It was crazy.
And I think the biggest moral of that story is you just don't
My
leave
question
anybody
though is how do
behind. I
you
mean,
wind up
both of the
living
hair
in an
on both of our
outbuilding in
necks
the middle
were
of
like
nowhere
way
and not
standing up, being
have
like,
Yeah,
"Are we
yeah.
gonna get robbed, killed, mugged?" I
the
mean, we've
wherewithal
got a Subaru
to
car
have
that's
a
fully decked
contingency
out, that's
plan
got
for
a
this
wrap on
stuff?
it, that's got
Like
Subaru, a huge
that
Subaru logo on
seems
it. We're like,
yeah, it seems like you
but
would
the
that would be step
biggest thing
1 would
is
be
the
having
kindness of strangers,
a
right?
backup
I
to your
mean,
backup.
could she have died out there? I don't know, but help people. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No redundancy. Yeah.
Well, did
You know,
didn't
you'd think
generators
so. She had said she had generators, but they weren't working, or
they didn't use them.
the whole
They didn't
thing
need
was
Yeah,
them.
the whole thing.
I'm
I
not
mean, it was
surprised.
just
I've heard a lot
it
of
was
stories about
incredible. I mean, I'm
people
glad
when they're
she's okay, and
traveling
she
and
called
having
us the
issues
next
in
day to
2
to
states in
thank us and
particular,
all
and one
that.
of them is Utah
But
for sure.
it
So
was
that's
I mean, we left
well,
creeped
it's
out,
actually
happy that she
Tennessee.
was okay, but we
So
left just
those
like,
are the 2 I've heard the
what
most.
like what just happened? Did this really are we on some sort of Twilight
Okay,
Zone? At
well
least
now
I
there
was
must
like,
be a
Wanted to leave
story behind
Utah
the
right
3rd
after
one,
that.
so we'll
yeah, we
get
had a
there, I'm
couple
sure.
experiences in rural Utah that were just like, okay, we're just ready to
Yeah.
be
Get
at
out
Yeah,
of
I've
Utah.
heard some weird
Yeah.
stories about Utah, not only in the rural parts, but also in, like, the cities just because it's Utah. No hate to Utah, just there's some weird stuff going
Oh,
down,
really?
people.
Well, bet you we know what the other one is.
Oh, for sure, it's gorgeous.
Oh, well, that would
Yeah,
probably
beautiful,
be the
beautiful
third
place. I
one.
mean, that's all the good off-roading is in Utah, right?
Yeah, well,
Oh,
that's
no
another
question.
podcast, yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
sure.
hating on Utah at all. I'm just
Sure.
Oh, we love Utah. We really love Utah. There's a lot of beautiful parts. Yeah.
This is true.
Yeah, and, a lot of great people are in Utah too. I mean, so we're not saying anything about Utah. Yeah, I mean, we were really glad that we had the most important thing, right, for any of the people. Plus, I mean, heck, we gave our 5 gallons of fuel off our rig supply spare tire carrier to a Jeep that an old Willys. What year was it?
I think it was a
46 or
47 or 48
47?
Willys, and
Uh,
yeah,
but he had a fuel cell and he was up on Cinnamon Pass above 12,000 feet. And we stopped because we weren't 100% sure which direction we needed to go. And he came up to us. He's like, I hate to ask you. I'm like, oh God.
I thought he was going to tell us to get this Subaru off the trail, but
Yeah. We were expecting some sort of altercation, but he's just like, do you have any spare fuel you can
All good
spare to
karma,
give
right?
us? And
You want to
we
have it come
knew
back
at
to you
that time we knew
eventually.
what our track was, and we're like, yeah, we've got extra 5 gallons, and so we gave him the 5 gallons that we had. I mean, he paid.
One hundred
We weren't
percent.
expecting payment because you just help people, especially if you're you know above 12,000 feet and you're in the middle of nowhere. Again. I noticed the trend here, but no, I mean he I don't know, gave us $20 or whatever it was, but you just help people, so
Yeah, I find that in this
Yeah.
this world of especially
yeah,
yeah,
automobiles,
yeah.
road karma, as we
there's
Yeah,
say.
like Andy was saying the whole trip, he's like,
a
it's
contingent of
it's good
people who know
road karma.
people
We're building up really good road
and a
karma.
contingent of good
Yeah,
people who
because
know people. Like there's obviously
I
people
definitely
in
had
the
some people
automotive space
help us
that we
out
don't like. But I
uh,
feel like,
at times, so I
all
try
of
to
the
help
good
other
people
people
have
out if we
somehow
can.
found each other through
As
the
we've
internet
had
and
to many a
podcasts and
time.
Instagram.
So,
And
we understand it. We
I'm
get
I'm
it from
confident
being
in
on the
driving
receiving end or
anywhere
the
in
giving
the
end.
United
It's
States
it's
now
just the right thing to
and
do.
knowing that I'm probably only an hour or two away from somebody who I'm connected to somehow who can help out if needed. So it's it's turned out to be a pretty good thing that way. So and that road karma is huge. I've often stopped and helped people when the situation's not sketchy. So, I can't drive by a person in an old car on the side of the road without stopping and helping. Like that could be me. So I'm gonna help you too. It may listen time and a place, right? If it's a high speed highway and somebody's off to the side, I might not be able to, but
Yeah,
Yep.
in
absolutely
any
agree.
case where you
Yep.
can, you,
Well
you want
said.
to build that. I'm not a big faith or karma guy, but sometimes it's something to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
thanks for doing that because so many people don't. Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yep.
So yeah, if you're out, you're be driving for hours and hours on this trail, you're out in the middle of nowhere, would you just pull over and camp anywhere, or would you try to find
Mm,
campsites or
yeah,
a mix of it?
that's a great question. I would say around maybe 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
Early
w-
afternoon.
Yeah, we'd
I'd start
start.
looking.
Yeah, Mercedes would start looking at where we are, where we're headed, and what our camping opportunities were. We didn't get onto any public land until Colorado, so
I
all of our camping from Nags Head all the way through Colorado was generally at state campgrounds. We stayed at a couple of private ones, private campgrounds, but most of them were state parks, state campgrounds, that kind of stuff. Some were fantastic, some weren't so fantastic.
some are
Some were
interesting.
some were a bargain at $10 to $12 a night,
Some are
or
rip off at
at
41.
40, whatever. Yeah, the we camped in. It was a very nice campground in Virginia, but it was over $40 a night. And then once we got into Colorado, we were able to stay on public land and save some money, which was good. But yeah, we had some epic camp places. Big shout out to the Great Plains Bunkhouse in the Oklahoma Panhandle. We it's a You run across these I don't know what you call them, locations or landmarks, waypoints on the TransAmerica Trail that will you'll just see the TransAmerica Trail logo, the three white arrows, and it generally means they're tact friendly. Like you might be able to camp there if they need
Or get
if you need
water.
tools or need water.
Yeah, fuel or
And so we were, after a very long day in Oklahoma, we came across just in the nick of time this place called the Great Plains Bunkhouse. It was inexpensive, and you can camp in the front field that they have there. But they also had a bunkhouse if you wanted to stay
And
inside.
2 cute kittens.
Yeah, and yeah, but I mean, it was we were the only people there, and uh, so we had this like kind of common area and a kitchen and even a area with a piano and all that stuff. But it was it was kind of a highlight because it felt like a remote outpost. It felt like a little bit of civilization in the middle of nowhere, but it also highlighted this thing that we did not expect, which was the amount of isolation that we experienced. We didn't see a single other person doing the Transamerica Trail for 7,100 miles. We ran into a couple people, like we'd be at a grocery store and they'd be like, "Hey, are you doing the Transamerica Trail?" And be like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, I did it on the KTM or blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." But we didn't run into hardly anybody else on the trail.
And there were days that we maybe saw one person if we didn't need fuel. I mean, the most times that we saw fuel is if we needed to restock our groceries, do laundry for laundry day.
Laundry day.
Or just need to get fuel, gas, or sorry, I said that already. Or groceries. So yeah, the isolation. I mean, Andy and I are used to doing things on our own, stuck in a still box. Doing a crazy Arctic rally for 11 days, or doing this or that, or whatnot. I mean, we're used to that. But doing 29 days, and not talking to hardly anybody else for that length of time, or finding camp in the middle of nowhere with nobody else nearby. That was really interesting because there's a lot of introspection that happens. There's a lot of emotions that can happen, especially if you're out running storms or smoke or wildfires or humidity or all that type of stuff. And it's not always easy, but we learned a lot, or at least I learned a lot from that.
Yeah, was this your longest trip in a car? Like,
Yeah,
I think
it happened.
consecutively camping out of a car
Oh,
for sure.
for sure, the most
yeah,
camping
Yeah.
consecutively, traveling out of a car. We drove from Fort Myers, Florida to Portland in our Mitsubishi Delica when we bought it. I think this was still
That was 5
longer.
days, I
yeah,
think.
Yeah, that was 5 days, not
yeah,
29.
Or is it
yeah.
29?
And
I
we
think I,
were camping at Love's truck stops.
yeah, I think
Well,
I should
yeah, that was
qualify not distance, but actual time.
Oh, yes.
yeah,
Yes, it was.
time, yeah, consecutively. I mean, when we did the Baltic Sea Circle Rally, when we drove an early spec, early, German market early spec 2024 ID Buzz from Volkswagen, it's the new hot EV. We were able to get that on loan for us, and it was that rally was kind of a gift to each other because it was our 20th year wedding anniversary. And when we did that, we were over in Europe for about 5 weeks, but the rally itself was 16 days in 9 countries.
Yeah, I've done
And
9
so
days in a
that was
car
probably, and
with
we
about
camped out
half
of
of
it.
those
16
camping,
days of
and that was a
Yeah, so
lot.
that
I
was
can only
about 14,
imagine
15 days of camping.
this trip.
But again, mind
So
you, we're doing 9 countries, 7 or 8 of them, which we've never been to. So that was a whole other different, interesting feat as itself. Of course, you can listen more to the previous podcast that we did with you guys on that rally. But that was several months before the North American iteration even came out here at ID Buzz.
Mhm. You know, it's funny because you start out doing it and you're like, it's kind of novel, and then you realize it just becomes your. Yeah, I mean, again, we're not out here for years, but it just you fall into a routine just like you would anywhere else. And, you get up, you know, um, I would close up the tent. Mercedes would
Daily duties.
get the interior of the car set up, plug in that fan, to recharge. I'd close the tent up. She'd put the kitchen stuff away. So you fall into a rhythm, and it just becomes kind of like your normal day to day, and you don't think that you're, hey, by the way, we're camping in the middle of the Utah desert, and no big deal.
Well, and I think we've learned over the years that it works best when we realize somebody has a special talent, or can put away the rooftop tent easier, or somebody knows where all the kitchen supplies go in, said bag that, like our front runner, we had a front runner typhoon bag that we had that we flew out with a bunch of different supplies, but we ended up using that as our quick get in, get out of our, we have some Hellenach chairs. We had all of our camping stuff, our mountain houses, right? Our mountain house freeze dried meals, a lot of our kitchen stuff. So that ended up being a big bag for that. But I've spent almost 20 years as a commercial interior designer. I know space planning, I know packing. I'm really good at it, but it took us years to learn.
I'm getting angry just thinking about having to go through that bag.
Like
I hate it.
any type of organization, or especially putting Tupperware away.
Oh,
Sorry, honey.
Don't bring that up.
But it's like Tupperware or anything like that. Andy's not the best, but he's really good at other things. So like mechanical
Well, yelling.
or yelling. Yeah,
Mostly
right.
describing
But it's taken us
my
years to
relationship as
learn.
well.
Okay,
I
so
can't
we
back,
need to
she can
rely on
back,
each other's
and
strengths. And
we
if there's
we
a
we we
weakness,
we go
hey,
with that
let's see
strength.
how
We
we
know
can
that
help.
fact.
And are we perfect at it? Not at all. I
She
mean, do we
she
have
she
issues? And
packs.
do we
I
have
get
to figure
angry
things
and
out on
jam
the
things into
fly during
places that don't fit,
Yeah,
and
Trail?
then she fixes
Yes,
it.
but that's
So
part
it's
of it.
fine.
That's part of the narrative.
There's
So it's just every year
Well, there's
or
been more
every
than
trip
one
or
camping trip
every
where I've come
excursion that we
home and
do,
she'll be
we
like,
try
"Is
to
the
learn
tent
from
packed?"
it
And
and
I'll be
get better
like,
for the
"Well, I
next
mean,
one.
it's not erected anymore. It's in the car. Yeah, it's packed. It's stuffed in the corner because I couldn't
Yeah.
bear to get
Yes.
Maybe it's a woman
the
man thing. I
patience
don't
to
know.
get it back in its bag in the wind and the dirt. But
Same.
it's there. We'll
Exactly.
fix
Yeah,
it.
because it always falls on our head when we try to pull it out. So
Yeah.
It's in the car.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and when you do this in a cross track for this
Yeah.
long, and you've got all these, I mean, really, you
it's
it basically you find the most optimal place for things after a few days.
no, you
And
find the most optimal place that it,
well, what I was saying was everything has to go in a certain way when you have this much gear. And then, as journalists, we had multiple camera bodies, cameras, uh,
Heard it was yelling
laptops.
and
Yeah.
wrenching, which is
and all this
it's
Batteries.
extra
it's
stuff.
it's the
And so,
same
I mean, it
here.
really
It's the
did have
same
like
here.
the two bear containers did have to go specifically stacked behind the passenger seat, or else the stove doesn't fit in right. And if the stove doesn't fit in right, then the table doesn't fit. So it's like a game of Tetris, of which
Mhm.
Mercedes is much better at than I am.
Well, and you're much better at it other things, but I think the biggest learning thing for us, and we're still continuing.
Notice she doesn't say what those things are. I'm just saying.
When did I hey. I think
Oh, that.
yelling and right in front of my
Yeah.
right. Well, maybe it's a man woman thing. I don't know, but I think the biggest thing for us, and we're still learning this, is to be humble enough to say, okay, you're better at this. Can you do this, and then I'll do this, or whatnot. And we've learned over the years. It's like we had one of the stupidest arguments of at who could zip up the old CVT tent, the rooftop tent we had however long ago.
Years ago.
I
No,
stuffed
it's
it in
definitely
a
a lot,
different way, and I was able to
for
not
sure.
jam the zipper. I mean, the zipper always just jammed on it, which was hard to put it
Yeah.
away. It was one of those old, soft-sided ones. But I
Yeah,
think
that's
we
wild.
learned a lot, being like, okay, if he's better at putting the tent away, let him do it, and then I'll go ahead and pack something else or this or that. But it's an evolution. It's a process of figuring out how you can live on the fly with portable gear and make it work, especially for a month. And that's a lot. Believe it or not, it's actually a lot.
It's definitely a lot, and that's a small car. Like I know how big this car is, and I packed it for road trips. It's not a big car.
Yes.
Um,
We wanted
uh,
the challenge,
yeah.
and we
So
did it very successfully.
did you say it had a swing out spare tire carrier?
Yeah, we worked with a company called Rig Supply, and it's a spare tire carrier that goes into the uh, 2-inch hitch.
Okay.
And it carried our full size spare, our Max Tracks, our Trasharoo,
Mm-hmm.
and 5 gallons of fuel. And then it had a drop down table called the Alter table that allowed us to set up computers or make dinner off the back of or anything like that.
Or
So
happy hour if we're lucky enough.
yeah, and we liked it enough that we're actually getting one for our own cross track.
Yeah. So that's one of our secret things that we're going to be building up with our own vehicle.
So a practical question then: if you've got a full size spare on the outside, did you take out the temp spare and use that space to put stuff in?
No,
or would
we
you keep
kept
the
it
temp
just
spare?
in case.
Okay.
You know,
Yep.
shout out to BF Goodrich. We didn't have a single flat tire the entire time, which was awesome. Uh, but we, two is one and one is none, right? And
Yeah.
so we didn't need the extra space where the actually I think we did put a few things under that where that spare tire are, but
I think the biggest thing for us is we realized
Golden
if you
rule of
pack a
preparedness.
full-size spare plus a tire patch kit, so for
Pack it if
instance,
you
we
don't
have the
want to use
Speedy
it.
Seal ARB tire patch kit, or do a full-size spare plus
Excellent.
the
So where'd the
donut or
trip go from
whatever,
there?
spare that's supplied, and then the tire patch kit, that we'll never have a spare, and knock on wood, we
Yeah.
haven't yet, so hence why we
Yeah.
did it. Safety first, again.
Yeah. If you have those things, you won't need them. If you have none of those things, you will absolutely need it immediately.
yeah,
You got it.
true.
You got it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Well, we ended up into Idaho where things did not get any cooler, and then
Flatter and faster.
got flatter and faster. You get to drive through a bombing range, which is exciting, and there are lots of signs saying to stay on the road, which we did. And then yeah, and then from there you cross into Oregon, and we sort of thought, oh hey, we're in Oregon. This is familiar country, and it did not um it did not let us finish easily.
Oh,
And
God.
we
The last
the
200 miles are
the
terrible.
last day we thought, hey, we're gonna roll out of the mountains to the Oregon coast and finish just in time to get the crazy Norwegians fish and chips
Which everybody said to go.
in Port Orford, Oregon, and Oregon was not going to let us finish easy. We ran into a sinkhole that was like 10 feet in diameter and about 4 feet deep, which completely made us have to turn around, find a whole nother way around.
It set us back a few hours.
And I mean, it was just one thing after another last day. We thought we wouldn't actually finish on the day 29. We both really wanted to. I think we were both at that point where we were ready to be to the ocean. And lo and behold, we were able to do it on day 29. We got our fish and chips and a much desired shower.
Right, and I think one of the reasons for that push, at least for me, was it oddly enough ended up being our wedding anniversary. So that was our 21st wedding anniversary. So we were like, "Oh, well, of course we have to like celebrate by doing this crazy, month-long thing and then finishing on our anniversary." I mean, we had no idea how long it was going to take us, whether it was going to take us 4 weeks, 7 weeks, and we had no clue or what we'd get ourselves into. But the fact that we actually finished on our wedding anniversary and had a chance to have a celebratory beer with fish and chips and touch the Pacific Ocean.
We did buy a bottle of champagne.
Anything's
Yeah, we did.
anything's
We
classy when
did
you get
buy a
on the
bottle of
road for
champagne
29
and drink,
days sleeping in the dirt.
Argyle
So
champagne, and which is local in Dundee, Oregon. And persisted to drink it out of
excellent.
the
That
last
sounds like an
hotel room
excellent
in Port Orford,
end to
Oregon. What
a
was it? I can't
hell
remember
of an adventure
the name
that
of the
you probably
motel, but
will
anyways, it was a
probably
local
never do
motel,
29
and
days
we
camping in a
got the
row again.
last room in the whole entire town, and drank it out of the little plastic
Plastic
cups
cup.
that were there. And yeah, that's how it was. And maybe drink a bit out of the bottle too. So straight from the bottle. Yeah, considering that we didn't have showers for maybe a week beforehand. Yeah,
You know what? I'd do it again tomorrow. It was a race.
literally, we were just talking about it yesterday, being like, what can we do? Can we do it? I mean, not very many people do it backwards because you do it East Coast, West Coast. That's how it's
In a
supposed to be.
jimny.
Well, yeah, right. But
Excellent.
we're like, can we do it again? How can we do it? Where can we do it? What's more crazy? Like, not more crazy, but like,
You wouldn't.
I think you guys know as well enough that we test vehicles in an unconventional manner to see if they're capable to do it or not. And so yeah, we hey, if anybody give us an opportunity, we do it again in a heartbeat.
So real type 2 fun.
Type 2 fun.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I don't know if I would be able to do it. I think yeah, 29 days car camping is rough for me. I
Hey, I didn't smell Andy, and Andy hopefully didn't smell me. So,
We light up on the personal hygiene.
yeah, we
Yeah.
did. Especially the fact that we were sweating like crazy for the first 2+ weeks. And I mean, again, we had one day under 90 degrees plus.
So
It's crazy.
I don't know if you watched the I think it was a 3 or 4 part series where Donut Media did this all off road trek in a Subaru SVX, but they did most of the Transamerica Trail,
They just didn't
and
say it.
right, they didn't call it the Transamerica Trail, but there were sections where we were like, oh yeah, we know exactly where that was, or yeah, we remember that water crossing or whatever, and uh, but that SVX didn't have air conditioning, and we were watching this, being like, I don't know how we would have done this without air conditioning. At least during the day, we had a cool place to sit because it was just unbelievably hot, and we just never got out of it. So, but it was a heck of an adventure, and yeah, as long as the car has air conditioning, I think I'd do it again.
Well, and I mean, huge thanks to Subaru of America for trusting us with this opportunity and, to test our vehicle in a very, very long and adventurous way, shall we say? And then also our product partners too, and our friends and our family, because we wouldn't be able to do it without them. And for us to be able to write about it and talk to you guys about it, and be able to share all the photographs. I mean, we took a lot of great photos and videos, and there'll be more coming out via Crankshaft Culture, which is our own entity in our social media. But we will at some point have a long form video coming out. We still need to do Baltic Sea Circle rallies as well. We're a little bit behind on long form stuff, but it's a collective effort, and I think the biggest thing is
We're all
is
about the car culture
if
here,
you
and the
go
good
in
car culture, and the
prepared
good
as
people, and the
best
people
as
who
you
want to do
can
the fun
be
things.
and
So,
research beforehand
100%.
and
That's
lean
why
on
you
those
guys
friends,
have
like
it
you
on more
said,
than
the
once.
friends that are throughout the country, some of them who reached out and said, "Hey, if you have any trouble, I'm an hour off the trail, or I'm here or there, or whatever." Thanks to everybody, because that's so important. No matter if you're an
It's probably
on-roader,
the
off-roader, drifter,
it's
classic
probably the
car
New Hampshire
person,
BDR.
it's the car culture, and that's what we love
Yep.
so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know. I Yeah. Um, I know there's definitely like a Trans New Hampshire Trail that people have sort of
Oh,
mapped
there's
out,
there's
and there's
there's
stuff
tons
across
and tons and
Maine,
tons of shorter trails that you can do that don't require you to do 29
something like
days.
that.
So,
So yeah, and we did a week across Maine, kind of all off road one time back in
Oh,
2016,
cool.
pre podcasts. That's how long ago it was. Um, so yeah, there's like if you ever have an opportunity to do a trip and you want to stay in like a one or two states, there are ways to do it up here too, which is a cool. Yeah.
We love that. I've done a little bit with Honda, the Trail Track Tour. Oh gosh, when was that? Multiple years ago now, maybe, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago, something like that, where we ended up at Overland Expo East, and that was with Honda. That was when the Trail Sport series was just coming out, and I drove a Passport. And I think it was Virginia and West Virginia that I did some off-roading all the way down to where Overland Expo East set up shop, and then we camped there when we arrived. We camped at that event. But other than that, I've never done any off-roading farther up north. Have you?
No, I'd love to explore the Northwest more. We had
Northeast.
I'm sorry, Northeast more.
Yeah.
We live in the Northwest, yeah.
Yeah, we live in Northwest.
We've had the chance to road trips through some of that area.
Beautiful.
It was ended up being a last second, last minute. Oh, we have an extra day, and we bombed it up to from Hartford to Portland, Maine. Had a lobster roll, came down
Yeah.
through uh,
I
New Hampshire,
crossed
Vermont, and
Maine
then
to make
had
my 50th state.
had dinner with a good friend of ours in Western Mass, and then back to Hartford. But that was within 12 hours. But I know that there's some cool stuff up in Maine. Some of these I can't remember you guys would probably know what they are. It's like a these back roads that you have to get a
S-
permit or something.
Um, so in Vermont and New Hampshire, I might get this backwards. I think it's Vermont has class 4 roads, they call it, and New Hampshire has
we
class
picked it up in
6 roads,
Jackman, I
and these
think.
are public roads that are just not maintained.
Right.
So there are good maps that have them, and if they're drivable, you can drive across them. Like it's no big deal. It's legal to
Hmm.
drive them. Maine has some stuff. I don't think they have a name for them. We drove in 2016. We drove the Golden Road, which is from Millinocket, and I forget where. I know we either started or ended in Millinocket, and I can't remember right now. But okay, and that was they built that road. It was like 6 lanes wide dirt road.
Wow.
It's built for semi trucks carrying logs. So they
Oh,
used
okay.
to float logs down the river for the paper mills, and then in the 50s they built this road. 50s or 60s they built this road to run trucks. So you can be out there. You got to register to run on that because they want to know who's out there because you got to watch out for semis and stuff. But
Right.
you can
That
dive off of that and take side roads, whatever you can find. And there's the main Gazetter. It's a Delorme product, so it's a book. But the main Gazetter is like really good. It's this big paper atlas, and it has really good definition on all the roads that you can drive.
Sure.
So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff up here in the Northeast, and definitely you can do it in the winter, which is a little sketchier, but it's nice in the summer. You know, June, July up here. It's a good time to drive across stuff.
It sounds like those roads are much, much wider than the roads that we had in a lot of Europe when we did sorry, TransAmerica Trail, the
Well,
Baltic Sea Circle Rally, which you were supposed to have stayed off of any motorway, autobahn, highway, that type of stuff, and do back roads and no GPS, mind you. Although we had to use GPS when we had to charge our EV, our ID Buzz. But a lot of those roads, especially in Norway, were literally like you couldn't do two-way traffic even if you wanted to. And
It's
those were their
interesting when we were
highways, I
doing
swear
the
to God.
main one.
It
We go
brought
off the
another
Golden Road a few
level
times
of
to explore some of the other trails.
roadworthiness,
And there were a couple of times
especially
we
if
were
you're
up
in
by
country
Canada,
roads. I mean, heck,
and
Andy and I,
you'd be
when we
going
did
down a
that,
trail,
we
and
didn't
then
realize
in
that
order
we were
to
passing
prevent
into
people just from
Poland
driving in and out of Canada on these dirt
on a
roads,
gravel
they just
road until we saw the
dug
sign and
trenches
Andy
across the
said,
road,
"Hey,
basically. We
I
came
think we're
across that,
going
what,
into
2 or 3
Poland."
times,
And I
Andrew?
just stopped and then I pulled up my GPS just to see. I pulled up my cell phone. I was like, "Oh my God, I think you're right." Because, that's just how they roll over there, which is pretty insane.
oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. The
insane.
so the most of the roads are very small, like car and a half width or
Yeah.
less.
Yeah.
Unimproved, you'll get pinstripes. The Golden Road is special because it was built specifically to, and they'll grade it. In fact, when we were signing in to go, the guy's like, "Oh, they just graded it, so it'll be nice and smooth for you." But I think it was still like super washboardy. Um, it's 96 miles long. I just looked it up real quick. But yeah, it was built from Millinocket to the Canadian border, and it was just for logging companies to run paper trucks. So I mean,
Wow.
huge. And that's the other. You have to be careful. Some of these roads you'll get on, you run a CB because the trucks are supposed to call it mile markers
Yep.
because they're doing some of these. I mean, and some of these roads they use for the main forest rally
Yeah.
because that's how fast you can go on these roads.
Yep.
So you've got an 18-wheeler doing 65 on a road.
Yeah.
You don't want
That's
to
crazy.
come across it head on. So you listen to the CB. You'll see a marker on the road. It'll say like channel 19, channel 17,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
And and there's mile markers, and the guy is supposed to call out as he's going 10, 9, 8. So
Yeah.
there's a truck coming.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
we
similar
ran it.
to Alaska.
Yeah, we ran into that up in Alaska and in Northwest Territories and whatnot. We have one of our friends, Shane Bowman, who was one of our buddy cars with his navigator John Williams, and on the Alcan 5000. Yeah, you'd be on these roads, and he used to be a truck. Shane used to be a truck driver and had the right channels programmed into his radio, and so yeah, he'd call those out, and then you'd eventually know where the truck was because he called out 5 and you were at 6 or whatever. So
Well, then he made
Oh,
sure to
cool.
let
Well,
them all
hell of a
know
story.
where we were
So
because we
the
were passenger
main
vehicles, right? I mean,
purpose for this trip was to
we've done
promote
the rally
the
a couple of
Subaru
times now
vehicle,
with
correct?
them.
There was
So,
no other
he'd call out,
people doing it. It was just you
Jeep
guys.
Rubicon, and then, whatever vehicle that we're driving, whether it's a Subaru Outback Wilderness or whether it's the Honda Passport Trail Sport. And then he'd call it out just so that they knew that we had two vehicles oncoming to them. So it was very helpful.
Nice.
That's correct. So this was unlike some of the other things we've done, like the Alcan 5000 or the Baltic Sea Circle Rally. There was nobody else. This was just us, and Subaru was willing to lend us the vehicle to do that, and then had our product partners, and it was just the two of us.
Yeah, I mean, we both went to the 2024 Crosstruck Wilderness launch when it very first came out, and separately, and we wrote for different publications. We were both very impressed at how capable that vehicle was, and they put us on an off-road trail that was really, really quite interesting in some parts. It was like, you're gonna put us up there? It's like
Yeah,
this really crazy, craggy, steep silt ridden,
a lot of the media drives you go to for off-road vehicles, they make it very um,
easy.
well, they make it very easy, and it's all very prescribed, and it's
Yes.
all very vetted, and
Yeah.
all that. And when we did the Crosstrek Wilderness launch, which was done outside of Zion, I believe it was
Yeah, it was yeah.
in Utah, and I remember I was partnering with another journalist, Perry Stern, and we got to the base of this huge hill that Mercedes was talking about. And I mean, I could,
It was
I've
so
got,
wooded. It was all silt.
nearly 20 years of off road experience under my belt. And I remember getting to the base of this hill, and I looked at Perry and go, "We're not really going up this, right?" And there was a woman at the top who worked for Subaru. She's like, "Just keep your foot into it." We're like,
Oh my
"Okay."
god.
And sure enough, it went up. And at that time, I remember thinking, "Wow, this thing is actually more capable than I thought it would
It's
be." It's
definitely
not just
not
like
the normal
it's not
choice,
just a
but
car
there
that's
does
got
also
all
seem to
terrain
be a
tires on it and
lot
that's it.
of
Well, and
Subaru off-road
that's
stuff, so it's
where the
not
seed, I guess,
completely
was
out of the
planted
ordinary. It's not
for
like you
for
did it
me
in
at
an
least.
Elantra.
And,
So,
I thought of that the whole time, and then, fast forward to this, and we're like, what vehicle can we do that's an unconventional vehicle? When we don't wanna say
sure.
underdog, but unconventional vehicle to do the Transamerica Trail, and our first thought immediately was this vehicle. Yeah,
That's true. That's true.
it'd still be
And
in Colorado.
yeah, and the we also aren't the first people to have ever done this in a Subaru. Other people have done it before. I don't know if anybody's run the entire thing. A lot of people like the backcountry discovery routes. People will run sections of it and sections of it, or even like the Pan American Highway. Not everybody runs it from Dead Horse to Ushuaia. They do it as they can, and so I don't know if there are been other Subarus that have done the whole thing at one fell swoop, or if we were the first. I doubt we were the first, but yeah, Subaru is not. Um, it's not a vehicle that is often chosen to do the Transamerica Trail, but ours proved that it was capable of doing it.
Well, and I think for us with our knowledge and off-roading experience, both of us as a driver and a navigator, and of doing in a lot of these rallies, whether it's you've got a topographic map with a compass or no GPS and a map of Lithuania, Poland and Norway, figure it all out. And I think that's why we said, okay, let's see if we can do Subaru. Let's see if we can do Crosstruck Wilderness and see what can happen and can we do this? And it's just, we're very grateful for their trust in us to do it and for us to, I think the biggest thing is to no matter what vehicle, what rally, what competition, Transamerica Trail or whatever event that we do, it's all about respecting the vehicle and mechanical sympathy and helping each other and to get the job done.
For
There were a
sure.
couple of
I mean,
times
we
where
all
we
drive
did
old
not
cars, so we
do
get that more than
a
anything.
water crossing or
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
else because we're just like, look, we're
Yeah,
we're a
that's
quarter of the
actually
way into this trip. We do not
an
want to
excellent phrase.
break
No, with most of
down
my cars, fast is
in
not
Tennessee
possible
and have
either,
to
but that's
call it.
fine.
Yeah,
You
we're not
know,
gonna do
Yeah,
something
that's
stupid,
fine.
right? I
so
mean,
yeah,
I think
mechanical
it was
sympathy.
what was
If
that
you want your
company,
product
Andrew,
to
in
last, be or if you
I think
want
it
the
was
vehicle to
Georgia.
last,
They used to have a
you need to
podcast. They had a
be
sticker
pretty
that
well
said,
to it.
right.
always slow, never fast, or
Yeah,
I forget what the
Right?
sticker said now.
Us
Or
included.
fast as
never
possible,
last,
slow as
always slow, never
Necessary,
fast.
right.
Yeah. I've always liked that phrase, but excellent. Well, it sounds like an awesome, awesome trip.
Same.
So obviously people will be able to follow it on your social medias. You said the Crankshaft Culture was the website.
Never first. Uh, yeah.
Good.
Yes, crankshaftculture.com. We've got some content up there, as well as a whole ton of Instagram reels, YouTube shorts,
So,
things on
Blue
Facebook,
Sky,
Blue
LinkedIn.
Sky, all the socials
Yeah,
almost.
and if somebody wanted to literally watch from the very first day that we did it until the end of day 29, Instagram's the best
excellent.
source.
That's what
We
we'll do.
probably
So,
have
what
7
is
or 8
the social
different
media stuff?
highlights reels
What
or
was the
highlights
night?
bubbles
Everything
that
under
are
Crankshaft
that
Culture?
saved all the different Instagram stories, and then I don't know, probably 10 or 15 different reels that are posted that talk about the different daily compilations for recaps.
Yeah, we've written articles on this for OVR Magazine, Expedition Portal, Gear Junkie,
Truth About
Truth About
Cars.
Cars.
Yep,
And so
and
if you
others.
Google TransAmerica Trail Crosstrack,
They
you'll
can
find
find
it.
me all
Yep.
the same places as you,
Cool.
plus my own personal one of TSI SS 350 and the Arizona Rising Sun Rally with an
Everything's under
E,
Crankshaft. The website's
RALLYE on Instagram as well.
crankshaftculture.com,
It's
and
AZ
the rest of
Rising
our
Sun
social
Rally.
is just Crankshaft Culture.
All right, cool. So yeah, our regular listeners know where to find us. We're on Off Topic. We're on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm Racing Anger on Instagram.
Yeah,
And
super
Brad,
cool. I'm glad
where can they find you?
you guys came on too, and we had a successful first guest appearances on the podcast again. So thank you for being our willing guinea pigs.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming on. It's great to have you
Thanks for
again.
having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
It's
It was
always so much
great,
fun.
and it was fantastic to kind of relive some of these memories.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Always willing. Happy to talk to you anytime.
All right. Cool. As always, keep cars analog and aim for the roses.